Guys, time for another shed update. I realize they're coming a little more frequently now. That's good news for me. If we just looked at this end of the shed, it's getting close. Excited about that. You can see a lot of the new flat ceiling is in. We've worked hard on that. Hey, I would say this drywall jack has been fabulous. Sorry about my little cough here. I got something in my throat. I've had a cold for like 3 weeks and having trouble getting over it. But this drywall jack has really helped us a lot. You can see that in action. It goes up to about 11.5 feet. That's not quite to where we need the ceiling, but it's 3 or 4 inches away, and that works perfectly. It's got a lot of flexibility. Once we get up there, we can just kind of get a hold of the sheet and do what we need to do. It's really worked well. I bought this thing at Menards, and I got about $150 in it. This is the third time that we've used one. The other 2 times we've rented. We used one in our house at Carmel when we raised our ceiling from 8 foot to 12 foot. We used a drywall lift for drywall. And we also used it in our pole barn shed at Carmel. We've got a video on that, installing the ceiling there. That ceiling was 10 foot, so it was a little easier for this thing to do the job. So it might be a good time to talk just a little bit about my philosophy on buying versus renting. I wish now that I had bought one the first time that we rented it. It stores relatively small, and well, it just would have been cost effective. I would have paid for it by now. This one, I believe at Menards, was going to cost $18 for 4 hours, and I just hate being under pressure. So far, we've been at least 2 different days that we put up the ceiling we put here, and I just don't like the pressure of rental, the time constraints. It just doesn't work well for me. I know a lot of you guys are rent. You love the concept, but it just doesn't work well for me. So we went ahead and bought this. We'll either sell it at the end of the project, or Christy's already suggested we may have some inside the house work to do with it, so we may just keep it. Now you might be able to see behind me, you might not because the lights are so bright, but we've got one of our vents in. Used a really nifty tool to cut that circle. We got some video of that. May have some more coming later. We've got 3 more vents that we've already got covered with steel that I have to cut. So 1 right here, 2 over on this side. That's on today's list of to-dos. I wonder what's going on here. The cats seem to be nuts. I want to talk a little about some of the electronic work that I've been doing here. This is my Wi-Fi access point. I can't call it a router. Never mind that it's the same box, because a bunch of you get on my case for calling it a router. This is an Asus brand. I think it's an RT68U or something like that. As you know, if you've done much work with Wi-Fi, it's really hard to get a Wi-Fi signal through steel walls. So here's how I've handled it. I've taken off one of the antennas off the router. I bought a little cable here to extend that outside. I drilled a hole in the wall, and I mounted the antenna then on the outside wall of the shed. It's working beautifully. I've got another Asus access point router. It's not functioning as a router inside, and they're configured in a mesh network. If you want to know more details about that, you can look on the Asus website. There's several companies that do this, and a lot of you guys will provide that in the comments. Never mind my 30 years of software engineering experience, I don't ever like to come across as some sort of a software expert, so you can go check that out. It's working. If it didn't work, we would run a hard cable, but that might be fun just to show that we could dig and run a wire. But I don't think we need to. Right now the Wi-Fi is working great. As you can see, we've got the TV installed down here. Hopefully you can see this box up here. That's where the antenna feed comes in. I mounted an antenna on the roof so that we could get over-the-air TV out here. And then with the Wi-Fi router, we can get internet-based stuff like YouTube. YouTube's a great place to get some good quality video, right? I hear there's this guy that has little compact tractors and seems to be overly passionate about them. You might check him out. Now the TV is mounted temporarily. I didn't want to really enclose this yet with OSB because I feel like I may have some more lighting. There just may be more stuff to do. I did get a sound bar here. The sound bar has a wireless Bluetooth subwoofer. Actually, I don't know if it's Bluetooth. I think it is. But anyway, it paired automatically. I didn't have to do anything with that. The sound bar is wired to the TV with an optical cable. It's an LG compatible optical so that I can control the volume with one remote. I just made sure that when I bought both of these units, they were compatible and I could do the volume control from the TV. I didn't want to have to deal with the volume separately. I could pair my phone to this sound bar, but so far I haven't seen the need. The TV itself is a smart TV and it has, you know, all the features I use. I use iHeartRadio a lot of times. So that's really all I need. A lot of you have asked about my cell phone booster. Well, the one I chose has 3 bands to it, and they're usually all 3 green. Naturally, when I would get the camera out, the 700 here is showing red. I don't know why. So how did I choose which bands I needed? What I did was there was a spot in the phone that I could check here to see which bands I was actually using with my phone when I was in this location. And then I just made sure that the booster that I got supported those bands. So I suppose if I changed carriers that might cause a problem, but hey, it's back. Green light here on the 700. The booster comes with 3 pieces. It comes with the actual booster here. It comes with the internal antenna for broadcast. Now this won't be permanently mounted here behind the plastic. When we get the OSB up, I'll put it on the face of the OSB up high here in the shed somewhere. The third piece is an antenna. I ran this 50-foot of cable that came with the booster unit up to the top of the building where I put the booster antenna. So the pole that I have up there has 2 antennas on it, the TV antenna and the cell booster antenna. The furnace is going to go right here on the actual pallet rack here, on the bottom shelf here of the pallet rack. That may seem unusual, but I really like the idea of being able to, you know, not have an extra space for the furnace. I like the idea of getting it up as high as we could out of the way. Chris, my neighbor, liked that idea as well. So we're going to build that upward from here. I'll step out here a little bit. Hopefully at the top of the image, you can see 2 elbows sitting up there on the first piece of steel for this ceiling. We're going to cut a hole for that, hopefully this morning, and we'll be ready to put the plenum right under the steel there and connect to those elbows. So we've got 2 main runs off the furnace. There's a 12-inch run over here. This is going to go into the scissored portion of the ceiling where the lift is, where we're going to do our workshop. I want to make sure that I keep that warm or cool, as the case may be. So Chris thought a dedicated 12-inch run over here. There's 3 vents, left, right, and center on this run. Chris thought that would be a good way to handle that. So there are no vents further over to the side. This is as close as we get to the far end of the building. It's probably 18 feet, but they shoot out that direction. Hopefully that'll be good. Then for the other end of the building, there's a 16-inch run. And that's what you saw on the floor in the previous episode when I was putting that together. Christy and Catrill and I were able to get a lot of that put up there. The only piece left here is to connect to the elbows here right above the furnace. We're going to try to put these elbows in there as far as we can. And that's the reason I put the pink 1.5 or 2-inch styrofoam there. So we'd have some good insulation over the top of those elbows. It would be an area where we might lose some heat or cooling if I didn't have that insulation there, and so I thought it was a great place to put a little piece of, you know, very good quality insulation. I've got a new garage door sitting outside on the ground, still in the box. But the other guys I was working with kind of talked me out of installing that as we go here. For one thing, it's kind of cold outside now. But it seems like we might be able to just get the ceiling in and make the garage door install a separate project. My one fear on that was poking multiple holes in the ceiling. And they've convinced me that we can use the same holes with the mounting brackets up there. Even if we have to adjust some on the track, we can make that work. And I agree with that. You might ask, well, why did I get a new garage door? This one's not very well insulated, and we're going to want to heat and cool this facility. We don't want to heat it really warm, probably 55 degrees, maybe a little warmer than that, but most of the time just in the 50s. I don't want to have to take all my coats off every time out here, but on the other hand, I don't like to have to work with gloves. So it's just a lot more comfortable like that. Well, that'll pay for the garage door. You know, we need that extra insulation value. So we'll be installing the garage door at a later date, hopefully not too much later. We've started on the electrical for the furnace here, not the AC portion, but the furnace portion. We've got our fuse, we just haven't got it mounted on here. We're gonna do this all to code. It's gonna be in good shape. No, we haven't forgotten about tractors. We've got some interesting new stuff to try. This is called the limb saw. You've seen us in a video, I believe from last year's farm show, where we worked with Frank from Limb Saw Company, and we now have one to try for ourselves. And you can get a discount on it at limsaws.com, plural, limsaws.com. Use code TTWT, and you can get a discount, I believe a $200 discount on this thing. The pricing on this isn't so bad. This is potentially a great solution to get tree limbs and all that are just too high to reach, and you don't have to climb up in the bucket of your loader or get on a ladder. I've even seen some folks have a ladder in the bucket of their loader. And yeah, with a chainsaw, that doesn't sound good. This might be a great solution. We're gonna try it, just not quite there yet. So if you saw our pictures on Instagram, it's a swamp here again. You might say, well, I don't use Instagram. Well, the only reason that we use Instagram is because it's easier for us to get something out in real time, and it's easier just to post a picture rather than a longer video. We have to do some editing on the videos, and sometimes they're delayed a little bit. So you might join up our Instagram at Tractor Time with Tim, where you can see some more postings that are real time and maybe just a little bit more about what's going on behind the scenes. It's worth it. Check it out. Hey, remember we're going to be at the National Farm Machinery Show February 12th through 15th, 11 a.m. at the Deere booth each day. Louisville, Kentucky, Kentucky Fair and Exposition Center, easy for me to say. We really hope to see you there. Flag us down. If you see us walking the aisles at other times of the day, make sure you stop us and say hello. That's what we're there for. We want to meet you and hear a quick tractor story from you, or any kind of story. Yeah, we may not have a lot of time, but we're there to meet you. So, let us know, flag us down. Also, we're going to be going to Puerto Rico very soon. If you are a viewer from Puerto Rico and you would like to maybe meet with us, we might be able to meet maybe 1 or 2 viewers, especially if it was a quick meeting for a meal or something. So if you're from Puerto Rico, let us know. You can contact us at Facebook, at Tractor Time with Tim on our Facebook page, or you can just leave a comment below. Either way works fine, but we'd like to meet up with someone in Puerto Rico if that's possible. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll have more updates in the future, hopefully very soon. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.